They laughed at her apron. They mocked her small tips and her cheap, worn-out shoes. But the same woman they looked down on became the only person who stood beside a man everyone once praised. This is the story of Michael, a wealthy businessman who lost everything, and Anna, the poor waitress who saved his life. Michael had it all: money, fast cars, immense power, and friends, or at least he thought they were friends. He paid for their extravagant trips, their lavish meals, and their never-ending parties. They always surrounded him when the champagne flowed and the cameras flashed, eager to be seen with him. But behind all the luxury and glamour, Michael never knew that when the lights go off, the shadows disappear too. It all came crashing down with one bad business decision, one failed investment. And just like that, the empire he had spent 15 long years building collapsed like a sand castle against a relentless tide. Suddenly, his phone stopped ringing. The same men who had cheered for him, who had toasted his success, now acted as if they didn't know his name. They blocked his calls, avoided him on the street, and whispered behind his back. He has nothing left. They'd say he's completely finished. Michael sold his cars. He sold his designer suits. Eventually, he even had to sell his house. He went from living in a magnificent penthouse overlooking the city to sleeping in a small, damp-rented room. He went from enjoying luxury dinners to counting coins just to buy a loaf of bread. He had lost everything except for a sliver of his pride. One evening, with an empty stomach and an even heavier heart, Michael walked into a small, quiet restaurant. That's where he met Anna, a waitress with gentle eyes and a kind soul. She noticed his torn shoes and his shaking hands, but instead of judging him, she offered a warm, genuine smile. "Sir," she asked softly, "have you eaten today?" Michael's pride made him lie. "Yes, I'm fine," he mumbled, but his voice broke, betraying his hunger and despair. Without asking another question, Anna returned a few moments later with a plate of warm food. He tried to pay, fumbling for the few coins he had left, but she gently stopped him. "Sometimes," she said, "kindness is more valuable than money." Those simple words cracked the cold silence that had built up inside him. Days turned into weeks. Michael kept returning to the little restaurant, not just for the food, but for the person who listened without judgment, the person who genuinely cared. Anna wasn't rich. She lived in a tiny room herself and worked double shifts just to make ends meet. But she shared what little she had, never hesitating to offer him a meal or a moment of her time. She believed in him when the entire world had turned its back. She pushed him, encouraged him, and helped him find the will to rise again. Slowly, Michael found his strength. He started using his knowledge and experience to build a small business from the ground up. And for the very first time in his life, he wasn't working to impress his so-called friends. He was working to honor the woman who never left his side. Months turned into years. Michael's small business grew, and then it flourished. Investors came back, eager to be part of his new success. But this time, Michael walked differently, with humility and a deep understanding of what truly matters. He opened a chain of successful restaurants across the city. And guess who he made the general manager of them all? Anna, the same waitress who had once fed him for free. But the story doesn't end there. To celebrate his new success, Michael invited all of his old millionaire friends to a grand opening event. They arrived in their expensive cars and designer clothes, expecting to see the same arrogant, flashy man they once knew. And they did see him, but he greeted them not with pride, but with a calm, quiet strength. Standing before the crowd, he began to speak. "When I had money," he said, his voice clear and steady, "I thought I had friends. But when I had nothing, I found family in someone who had very little herself. This woman saved my life, not with wealth, but with kindness." The room fell completely silent. You could see the regret in their eyes, but Anna just smiled. She had never helped him for a reward. Her heart was pure. It just goes to show you, sometimes the richest hearts beat inside the poorest pockets. Never look down on someone because of where they are today, because you have no idea where they might be tomorrow. Thank you for watching. If this story touched you, please like, share, and subscribe for more emotional stories. And drop a heart in the comments below. We'll see you next time.